Outcome Memories is a game that is extremely hard to quantify. Not just every single little action, because in terms of that there are too many to count, but more so with answering how good the game actually is. It is easily the most polarizing game that I've ever played. There are people who defend it and all the jank that it can have, and people who condemn it as the worst ASIM on the market. Of course, a lot of people will point to a lot of different things that will strengthen their arguments. However, with how nuanced something like how good is a game can be, I think it is only fair to give Outcome Memories its due and give a full showing of why it's so polarizing. Unlike other ASIM games that I've reviewed, I have an extremely intimate knowledge of this game, its systems, how things should react, respond, and the oh-so-infamous balancing of the game as a whole that not many other people can say they have. Throughout my entire time playing Outcome Memories, I have had shifting opinions on the game. Sometimes I defend it thoroughly, sometimes I have been known to be extremely critical. With the final batch finally on the horizon, I feel as though now, more than ever, is the time to be critical of one of my favorite Roblox games of all time. Especially now that some YouTubers who are known for playing and making OM content have started to leave, give up, and stop making content altogether. I am here to criticize the game in full and give my full unadulterated opinion of the game, its current state, and the hope for the future. And what better way to start than by how it presents itself as a game. Outcome Memories is an asymmetrical game that sees you playing as the Sonic cast trying to survive against Sonic.exe characters. It heavily focuses on teamwork to play, and if you survive the final 80 seconds of the round, the exit opens and you're allowed to escape. This is the basic gameplay loop. And it's an all-around fine gameplay loop for what it tries to do, but does get boring when it's the single thing you have to do over and over again. To quell this, there are many different characters and killers to make the game fresher, and this does wonders. No game is exactly the same, even if the characters are, with each having wildly differing playstyles. A Sonic might be more aggressive with his drop dashes or might be more passive, preferring to use peel out instead. And this extends to more or less the entire cast outside a few exceptions. I mean, the whole cast consists of Sonic, Tails, Amy, Metal, Eggman, Knuckles, Cream, Blaze, Silver, 2011X, Fleetway, Colossus, and Tripwire. That's a lot of characters, and on 6 maps to boot. Theoretically, there's a lot of match variety here. Along with this, with how the game just looks, it looks great. Perhaps a little too good at times, but you know, that isn't the worst thing in the world, though my FPS does like to suffer. Essentially, the game on the surface looks extremely good and replayable until your heart's content. So why are so many people being critical of a game that theoretically should be a smash hit with audiences? I mean, the game looks great, it plays fine, it has a great OST, the mechanics are simple yet addicting, and it is an ASIM game. It has all the puzzle pieces in place to perhaps make one of the best games on the platform. And yet there are so many small, tiny cuts in the game that just slowly bleed your enjoyment out of what should be a really good and solid game. Perhaps it's a specific character combination on a specific map, or it's a killer that is all too popular and makes playing your favorite survivor too unreliable, or even just a specific map. On paper, Outcome Memories is a game with a really in-depth gameplay loop, but in practice you are mildly inconvenienced over and over and over again until you just quit. And that's what I want to focus on in today's video. I want to focus on why it's both so hated and beloved by the exact same audience of players. I know from experience that people who are often the loudest in criticizing something are people that play it the most, because they want the game to succeed. I mean, obviously. And what better way to start than with the biggest complaint, the survivors. The survivors and Outcome Memories are the main reason as to why people just don't want to play the EXE anymore. Be this a very few specific survivors that makes the game a living hell, or some survivors that are just able to negate other survivors' usually really logical weaknesses without much the EXE could have done. For example, Eggman. Eggman is a character who has a really good design on paper. Eggman is a character that is particularly good at survivaling. He is a survivalist. His whole kit is built around escaping chase and stalling for extended periods. That means he has very little actual use to the team. Sure, he can block things with a shield to help, but the stun is so minute it barely plays a role in many scenarios, leaving him more vulnerable than he otherwise would be. His design is simple, trade helping the team to help himself. He isn't really that good at helping the team, and in turn, he is extremely good at helping himself. Likewise, or I guess I should say unlikewise, Metal Sonic is the exact opposite. He has very little survivability on his own because his whole shtick is that he sacrifices HP to ensure the stuns that he gives are super long. He has all offense and no defense, not even having a second life, so when he chooses to run away with Destructive Charge rather than stun with it, it actively puts him in danger because he has no other chase ability. He is the exact opposite of Eggman. He is extremely helpful to the team, but on his own, he's meh at best. There's a reason why he has, like, 75% damage reduction in Last Man Standing. On their own, they sound fairly balanced, but together they become a menace. See, Metal Sonic's second ability is a heal. It's what allows him to keep doing what he does, but his self-heal is slow. He heals 7 HP every 2 seconds until he heals 70, so for about 10 ticks. That is 20 seconds that it takes to heal. That is a lot of time taken out of your game, especially in an ASIM where survivors can drop very fast. Not to mention that if you get interrupted, you will take massive damage that will most likely get you killed. But if he heals with Eggman, that is cut down from 2 seconds per tick to 0.5 seconds per tick. This cuts down his healing from 20 seconds to 5, which is 1/4. Which is less than 8, meaning that if Eggman is with you, that is less time than the actual stun, meaning that Metal Sonic can be completely healed while you're still stuck in the stun from him, and there is very little you can do against this specific matchup because you can't exactly tunnel out either. One stun and Metal is re-healed, and Eggman as well. Eggman. The problem here is Eggman himself has the survivability of a survivalist, while also being able to help out the team in a way that is absolutely game-changing. Because Metal Sonic is the backbone of a lot of teams, having a way to essentially ensure his survival, or at least massively prolong his demise, is absolutely extremely strong, and comes from a character that has no business having it. In fact, Eggman on his own is really only a B or A tier against most of the killers on most maps. I mean, sure, he's annoying, but most are predictable, but with Metal, he's instantly becomes an S tier. And this is just one of the survivor combos you can have. This is just one. There are many others, including but not limited to Knuckles and Sonic, who is hell to deal with if you aren't 2011X or Fleetway, with a way to catch up to Peel Out, Amy and Sonic for the same reasons. Actually, just pretty much anyone with Sonic, and many more. Essentially, a large part of why this game feels so bad to play is because of the survivor combos that you can have. The survivors on themselves are already fairly powerful and can stall by themselves, especially if the killer is on the weaker side, but add in survivors that can take away their entire weakness and it becomes very clear, very fast, that one of Outcome Memories' biggest problems is the fact that survivors often overstep their roles. Let me give you another example. Knuckles is, in essence, a sentinel, at least in terms of this game's standards. He has a punch and he has a counter. Seems good on paper, right? I mean, it's a little overdone, but it's fine. Holding that punch makes your punch stronger, meaning that you're incentivized to defend your team as, well, a defender instead of running into the fray. Now, because his whole gimmick is making him stand his ground, he has punch resistance on your punch. If you're hit, it has like 65 damage resistance or something like that. It's quite a bit, and he gets this for free. Now, this doesn't sound like that big of an issue. Sure, he gets that damage reduction, but now what? Well, it allows him to take hits that he just normally would not be able to, on top of the fact he has really good glide spots in a lot of maps. On several maps, he has a near infinite loop with his glide, and some not even needing punch to control the trajectory of. So we have a situation where there's a really tanky character with loops that rival Eggman's, and the only way to counter is if you get him off the loop, which admittedly can be done with most of the killers, but it takes so much time that Knuckles shouldn't have because this archetype isn't known for looping, and shouldn't be able to loop. Essentially, what I'm getting at is, most of the survivors in this game feel overpowered because they step outside the role they were made for. They can overreach into other roles while also doing their own very well. Arguably, the most balanced survivors are characters that do not do this. Blaze is really only good at being an ambush survivor, and her kick is very telegraphed, though yes, it is true that Blaze is annoying, but overall fine as a character unless they're in LMS and they actually become the Antichrist. Same with Tails, they don't overextend outside of their niches. But this is just one part of the game, and while it is often the main part complained about, it is not even close to the only aspect. Maps in this game range from okay to abysmal. Some are actually fairly decent. X's Castle, Angel Island, and You Can't Run, unless you're 2011X, are all fairly decent maps. They are fairly condensed, so you're never too far away from the action, and are overall made with both sides in mind, unless it's You Can't Run 2011. But he's really the only actively bad character on these maps that I can think of. Though the rest are abysmal for at least half the roster, 2011X and Colossus don't fare too well on Not Perfect because they're Void victims. Funnily enough, this is Tripwire's only decent map because of their ability to lock down the springs, and Fleetway always has eyes on everyone, so it's arguably his best map as well. Green Hill is simply a worse version of Angel Island. It just has the bad collision of Angel Island while also being double the size. Because Green Hill is so big, it can take Colossus and Tripwire forever to get to their targets. 2011X also isn't the greatest tier because of the giant pit of despair, and really the only character that does well consistently on Green Hill is Fleetway. And of course the actual Antichrist in terms of maps and OM, Mystic Cave. Mystic Cave is abysmal for every killer, except Fleetway. We'll get to him soon, I promise. Because of how tight it is, it's bad for Colossus since he just can't use charge effectively, and because of how big it is, Tripwire can't lock it down very well, and 2011X just doesn't have the vertical mobility required to play it effectively. In essence, the good maps in this game are decent at best, and the bad maps are actively detrimental to the EXE, but not so much the survivor side. Maps like Mystic Caves and Green Hill are oppressive to the EXE in their design because it requires them to waste their resources to either be able to find people or get to them, and then when you finally get to them, they're either able to knock you down or get away. Playing on these maps in a game where there are already extremely good survival combos is genuine torture. Trust me, I would know. I played this game for 24 hours in a row less than a month ago. And the good maps for EXE are just 50-50. There isn't an overly EXE-sided map like there is for Survivors. There isn't a map that is the inverse of Mystic Caves. Except maybe I would see an argument for Angel Island, but I mean, like, come on, really? If that were the case, then I actually wouldn't mind the existence of Survivor-sided maps, because there would also be the inverse, but because there are no overly killer-sided ones either, then it just ends up being rather unfair. I mean, it's not like the killers are strong enough to play on most of these maps or have the tools to do so. Every EXE in Outcome Memories is just not a well-designed killer. All of them, or at least some of them anyway, all have a way to deal unavoidable damage because that's just how BS the Survivor side is. Colossus has Charge, Tripwire has Reach Out and Brighter Day, Fleetway has pretty much everything outside of Fateful Drain, and 2011X also has a Charge, but that one is a lot less egregious than the rest. So not only are the survivors annoying to fight, the survivor side itself is also annoying because there are things that can happen to you that are also BS. Because the survivors are so airtight, the killers have to get damage in a way that isn't particularly fair, which overall contributes to the reason that people just don't like this game. And Fleetway is the biggest showing of this because his whole gimmick is that he is really hard to hit, but once you do, he becomes a glass cannon and is really easy to kill. But that's not really the case when he has... Let's see, there's 3 charges of Fateful Drain, there is Laser, there is Chaos Dash, and there's Burst. So 3, 4, 5, he has 6 ways to get out of a stun, not including being able to fly. So Fleetway is also a big contributor to why people just don't like this game. And because the systems like this have been in place since 0.1 and are more or less hard baked into the game, there really isn't too much they can do about it. Maybe they might be able to fix some of it, but because it's just inside the game's formula, it's genuinely just not fixable. And I think this is why people are quitting. They realize that the issues are hard baked into the game. They can't exactly be fixed without overhauling every system, and you can't just get rid of stun stacking when it's just a major part of the game. But with how it is now, it's just absolutely atrocious to go against. I love Outcome Memories. I really do. I owe my YouTube channel and everything I've built on said YouTube channel to Outcome Memories. But eventually, I just had to realize that, yeah, it's far from perfect. I still do kind of enjoy playing the game, both sides, but I can certainly see why people don't. It's not a game that I can play many games back to back anymore, which is a far cry from what I used to be able to do, now that I've realized that, yeah, this game just is kind of bad. I don't really have a way that I want to end this video, so I just want to end it on more of a thoughtful note. Outcome Memories is absolutely not perfect, but it still does hold a special place in my heart. Ladies and gentlemen, if you liked the video, like it. If you disliked it, dislike it. Subscribe and join my community Discord. And I hope to see you in the next one.